What day 3 pick has the best chance to make the Cowboys roster? And is there a sleeper that the Cowboys drafted maybe in the 5th or 6th round? All that and more in this episode of the Locked On Cowboys podcast.
You are Locked On Cowboys, your daily Dallas Cowboys podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Locked On Cowboys. Locked On Cowboys.
Welcome back to the Locked On Cowboys podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. We want to thank you for making us your first listen of the day. We are free and available on all platforms. I am Marcus Mosher. You can follow me on Twitter at Marcus_Mosher. He is Landon McCool. Check him out on Twitter at McCoolBCB. Landon, how you doing today, sir?
Good. I'm ready to kind of put a bow on these draft picks. We'll talk about some UDFAs next week, but we got a couple more of these day 3 guys to kind of go over and see how they fit in the roster.
Yeah, you guys have been loving these breakdowns on YouTube, so we're going to continue with them. We're going to do a deep dive on 3 of the Cowboys' last picks in this draft. And let's start with the guy that we actually skipped over yesterday, DaRon Bland, a cornerback from Fresno State. He was drafted higher than a couple of the guys that we talked about yesterday. I didn't have a chance to really sit down and watch him until this morning. But without giving too much away, I like him. Landon, what do you think?
I like him a lot too. I think, he's interesting. Physically, he kind of just barely clears the hurdles of most of the cornerback thresholds that the Cowboys have. If you look here, we have, for those of you on YouTube, you can see that we have his RAS up there. And that's the relative athletic scores, a formula come up with from Math Bomb. And if you look at it, his height and weight is very good. His arm length is at 32 inches, which is like right kind of where they like their cornerbacks lengthwise. To me, when I watched him on tape, he has very good linear speed. He plays with confidence that he won't get beat deep, and you can tell, like kind of just in his posture, that he's not necessarily afraid of he can be patient. He can wait on things and make sure he likes what he's seeing before he jumps on it. He's not constantly having to be afraid that he's going to get beat deep because he understands and trusts his speed. I think, to me, he is a silo cornerback, right? He's going to operate best in cover 1, cover 3, cover 4, any kind of scheme where he has vertical responsibility with mostly a single receiver. I think he is going to really thrive because he has very good kind of a linear explosion and linear speed going up and down the field. He's got really great hands. And he high points the ball well, and I think.
Why don't you just talk about that interception against Boise State? Go ahead.
Man, that Boise State interception, so he on Boise. I think the Boise State one, they actually ran like a trick play, wasn't it? Like a reverse pass or something like that, and he just was hiding behind the receiver, waiting for them to throw the ball. He baited the guy into throwing the ball, stepped right in front of the receiver on the defense on the negative 1 yard line and ran it all the way back for 100 yards, because he actually went backwards into the end zone a little bit and ran it all the way back for 100-yard pick six. Very impressive run back. But on that, you saw the kind of the ability to play above the rim. I think that's kind of one of his better traits, is that he has no issues playing up with the ball above his head. He tracks the ball very well. He's a very physical player who he can make it hard on the receiver throughout the route. He doesn't mind. He's sticky. He's going to be on top of you. He's going to be in your face. He can get a bit grabby at the top of routes. I mean, that's just kind of something that comes with being a very physical player at the cornerback position. And so we need to be a little bit careful there, because he can get in trouble with that kind of grabbiness at the top of the routes. Very comfortable, like I mentioned, playing above the rim. He tracks, like I mentioned, he tracks the ball well. I think, where does he win? I think the thing that surprised me is that he is a very, very good man cover corner, and that he got drafted so late. It's like, I think
with good athleticism, right?
Yeah, I think where he has some limitations is Like, I wouldn't love him having to carry somebody across the field, or I wouldn't love like
He's a
him
boundary
having.
corner, right?
Yeah, I wouldn't love him in the slot at all because I don't
No.
know that he has the agility to kind of handle that. But if you're asking him to open up his hips and side saddle up the line or play, outside leverage on the boundary, I think this guy can do it all day, and he has such great mirroring skills and tracking skills that he's going to be able to compete with wide receivers down the field. And then when the ball's in the air, he's not going to just give up or lose because the ball's been thrown. He's going to attack it, and he's going to turn into a receiver and play the ball really well. So I'm shocked that I don't know. I got it's a couple things. One, I'm shocked that we got him in the 5th round.
5th round, yep.
And two, going back and looking at Dane's ranking, like he had him as a PFA. I'm shocked because I don't know. His tape looked really good to me. I thought he looked like not a high day 3 or low day 2 player to me because he just his man coverage skills are so impressive and that's such a valuable trait. I just was shocked, I guess.
Yeah, a couple things I just wanted to add. First of all, if you get a chance, go watch the Boise State game. It's on YouTube. It's not actually cut up, but you can just watch all of the plays from Boise State's offense against Fresno State's defense. He is excellent in that game, not only on the interception, but there's 2 different times where they try to throw across the middle on 3rd down, and he's got perfect coverage. There's just no throwing window. My guess, this is a total shot in the dark, is my guess is the Cowboys were watching maybe Khalil Shakir or somebody from Boise State, and they kept saying, who is this cornerback here? Because he made play after play. I also watched him against Nevada. Now, that game wasn't as good for him. I charted it down here. So Carson Strong had 49 completions in this game. 49 completions. He gave up 3 receptions to Romeo Doubs, who the Packers took on day 3. One of those receptions was on a 3rd and 7 where he actually tackled the guy short on 3rd down. He gave up 1 touchdown on a fade pass from the 1-yard line to Cole Turner, which Cole Turner is just so much bigger than he is. And then he had an interception on a throw that was a little bit inside. He broke on the ball. It made a play. So, like, as much as they threw in that game, he wasn't overwhelmed at all. And I think that's the biggest thing. Against Boise State and Nevada, an NFL quarterback, he didn't look like he didn't belong. And
all those guys you mentioned are all NFL players now. Cole Turner's a tight end, right? If I'm not mistaken. Yeah. So I mean, that shows you he was up against a tight end on a fade route. That's maybe not the best alignment, but yeah.
And they started that game having play the opposite side of Romeo Doubs, and Doubs started to kill Fresno State. So they moved him over there. Doubs got him once on a slant, and for the most part, he was fine the rest of the game. So, I mean, this might sound crazy, but I like Bland, at least his film and his movement skills, quite a bit more than Nahshon Wright, who they took in the 3rd round last year. I just see a more natural football player than Nahshon Wright. I know Wright's longer, it's got better size, but kind of like Bland's tape better.
Yeah, I think Bland's got more natural talent as a cover guy. And again, it's shocking that he got drafted this late to me. I mean, maybe I need to watch more. But again, you mentioned it. Like, I think you said Carson Strong had 49 attempts.
No,
right?
49 completions.
49 completions, and only 3 of them were against one of the starting cornerbacks?
Yes.
That means they were clearly not going towards DaRon Bland.
Yeah.
So I think, and to kind of go back to the Boise State game, I thought one of the most impressive reps he had was against Shakir on like the 5-yard line. They tried to run like a fade route to Shakir, and Bland was all over him, just blanketed him. So, yeah, I mean, I think just in those 2 games, you've seen a lot of reps against NFL level talent. I mean, I understand Fresno State is where he went, but Fresno State plays some teams, and
I wanted to show something here really quickly from PFF, and this is something that I like to see. Is he was a small school cornerback who transferred to Fresno State, so you want to see improvement. And I know PFF grades aren't gospel.
Did you watch his Sacramento State? His Sacramento State tape was pretty impressive too, frankly. I saw some of it.
But what you notice is this trend of him just kind of getting better and better as the season went along. We missed that Boise State game, but I thought this was somebody who just improved every single time he was out there. What are your long-term kind of thoughts for him? Like, how does he fit in right away? What do you see his eventual role being in the NFL?
I mean, it's hard to say. Like, I mean, still kind of shocked. Like, again, by what I saw. So I think he could. His upside is he could be a starter in the NFL. I don't have any doubts that if he really developed, he could be a really solid number 2 corner in the NFL. I do think that he is probably, despite his, I mean, he's not small, but as far as what the Cowboys like, he just clears 6 feet, right? Yeah. I do think, despite that, him not being the 6'2" or guy, he probably is only a boundary corner. Like
he's almost identical size to Kelvin Joseph, 6 foot, 197, 32-inch arms.
I wouldn't, and the difference to me is that Joseph is a much better mover than this guy is. I would have no issues with putting Joseph in the slot. I think this guy, just because of the way he moves, I don't know that that's the best position for him. I love him, like I said, in a silo, moving up the field, kind of keeping a vertical stance and playing outside leverage. I love him in all of those areas, and I think he has a very kind of complete skill set for a guy that you want as a boundary corner in a cover 1, cover 3 system.
I think the hope is that you can stash him on the practice squad for a year, because your cornerback depth chart is still Trevon Diggs.
It's crazy.
Yeah. I know. Kelvin Joseph, Anthony Brown, Jordan Lewis. Those are your top 4. You drafted Nahshon Wright in the 3rd round last year. You have CJ Goodwin, who's always going to be that last corner on your roster. So if you can put this guy in your practice squad a year, and then maybe next year you move on from one, if not both, Anthony Brown and Jordan Lewis, maybe this guy kind of slides into that role. But I really like him. This is the kind of corner that you should gamble on day 3. So I'm excited to see him in training camp and in the preseason.
Yeah, real quick, this is not just a athlete only type guy. No, this guy has skills. Like, he has developed skills that are tough to teach. So, which is, again, this is not the kind of player that you usually find in day 3. Like, at least where he got picked, in my opinion.
All right, we're going to get to 2 other players here in just a second. But before we do that, I want to tell you guys about Blue Nile. If you're looking for some fine jewelry for that special woman in your life, but you're having trouble choosing, Blue Nile will help you out. They have jewelry experts on hand 24/7, available via phone or chat to help you find a memorable gift at every single budget. On BlueNile.com, you can easily navigate through thousands of fine jewelry options at every single price point. And this Mother's Day, give mom something she'll treasure forever with fine jewelry from BlueNile.com. And Locked On Cowboys listeners are going to get $50 off $500. This podcast exclusive is good only through Mother's Day. Make sure you're using promo code Locked On. Again, that is promo code Locked On. Go to BlueNile.com today. All right, let's talk about our next guy, our defensive tackle, John Ridgeway from Arkansas. I put on the tape this morning. It was a lot of fun. But what do you think about Ridgeway as a prospect and how he fits into the Cowboys long term?
I loved watching his tape, man. I mean, these guys are so much fun to watch. He's large framed body with kind of average length. I mean, I think he's got like a little bit over 33.5-inch arms, which, is pretty okay length for a guy who's 6'5". But I mean, this guy clearly enjoys the physical aspects of the game. He has a nasty temperament. He loves throwing guys to the ground. When he gets the opportunity to get his hands inside and he gets his grip, he likes, using that kind of peekaboo technique. I think mostly just because it allows him, once he sees the running back, to just completely throw his blocker to the ground. He's a former wrestler who enjoys wrestling with the offensive line too much, and I mean that, like,
surprise, right?
Yeah, he will abandon or forget his technique just to continue kind of wrestling belly to belly with some of these guys, and his hand technique gets inconsistent. What you'll see is that his inconsistent pad level. He'll, like I said, he'll abandon leverage to fight kind of belly to belly with the offensive lineman at times. When it looks right, it's incredibly good. When he's trying to drive the interior offensive lineman with his hands above his eyes, it works. He moves them. When he fires his hands inside on time, and he can kind of execute a sort of peek and shed technique, it's effective. Mm-hmm. But the problem is more just getting him to consistently kind of execute those techniques. Not that he doesn't know it. It's just, I think he just wants to kick people's butts. Like I like, that's what it is. It's like he seems at times to lose interest in the game and has more interest in just kicking the snot out of the guy in front of him, which is fun to watch, but can be frustrating when you're, kind of when he has an assignment. He's pretty much a pure run game player. He's not going to provide much at all as a pass rusher. You see the athleticism here. He's not necessarily super explosive for his size. He certainly isn't going to change direction very well. But I think if you're putting a body or two bodies in front of him, he will move that body or two bodies. Where does he win? He's an absolute run game wrecker. And some unanswered questions is, can he be more consistent with his technique in order to unlock something really special in this guy?
He's still fairly new to the defensive tackle position because he was a right tackle coming out of high school. And then he went to, I believe it was Illinois State, and then went to Arkansas, played really well last year. So, man, he is so strong. There are some tackles, though, like where guys are kind of running by him, and he'll stick an arm out, and he'll just kind of hog tie him right to the ground. Like it's incredible. The way, yeah, you like that?
It's incredible.
Yeah, I'm trying. I didn't love the way they used him. There was a lot of times, like on 2nd and 10, he would play nose tackle in a really wide 3-4. It's not even a 3-4, like a 3-3-5 defense they had.
Yeah,
and
they'd have the guys outside the tackles, and there'd be almost no one in the A, B, and C gaps,
I don't think that's a great spot for him. I actually think he's going to be better in the NFL when it's more condensed and there's more guys around him, and you just need somebody just to not get moved off the line of scrimmage in one gap. Like, I think that's where he's going to thrive. So I wonder, like, is his better fit like a one technique and a 4-3? Because I kind of think so.
Yeah, I mean, I think what he'll do here is probably play all, 0 all the way to, 1, maybe even like inside the B or outside the guard of the B.
I just don't think that scheme helped him very much.
No, I mean, I think they were over leveraging his skill set. It feels like they were relying on the fact that he was going to kick two guys' butts inside, and then hoping that the linebackers could fill everything else. In the NFL, that's not going to work. I think what you want is someone who's going to force the offensive line to occupy him with two blockers, and then attack the rest of the gaps that he's not covering. The way that the Cowboys move these guys up in different techniques, I wonder if eventually he could do some stuff as kind of a random 5 technique, a 2-gapping 5 technique. Sure. But I think for the vast majority of these snaps, we're going to see him inside as a 0, inside as a 1. What I wouldn't be surprised, and we saw a little bit of last year, is if they put Bohanna and him on the field together as kind of the like a 2-4 nickel situation, right? Where they are like almost head up on the guards, and then you just have kind of 2 linebackers and some pass rushers who are standing up on the outside. But I do think that he is going to be limited to, he won't play 3 technique, or if he does, not very often. Basically inside from 3, 0 to 2, basically, which isn't really a technique they play. So.
Yeah, I like him though. I think for the role that he's probably at least going to try to play on this team, I think he could be really successful. And he's so strong, and if he can work on, I think he's got some technical issues. So if you can work on the technique issues and improve some of the handwork, I do think he could be a really solid defensive tackle. He reminded me a lot of, Gaines that plays for the Rams, the big white guy that they had last year that was just so strong. In the middle of the defense, kind of something like that. But in the 4th round or 5th round, this is fine value. This is where you want to draft those guys.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying, is that like if you're looking at the value of where, like, relative to where they are in their position, the 5th round is a great round to get these guys, because they're not valued overall in the draft. So you could get one of the very best run stuffing defensive tackles in the 5th round. Like, that's just where it is, right? So I'm glad that the Cowboys finally made an investment here, because this is one of the better kind of talents that coming out of the draft for this specific skill set that the Cowboys have tried for too long, in my opinion, to just try to manufacture with UDFAs, with low-end free agents that they've signed. Last year was the first year that we actually saw them draft this guy, an actual body occupier defensive tackle. Now they've invested an even higher pick in a guy So I think really the thing I'm most excited about is a recommitment to kind of using these late round picks on guys like this. There's really not any reason not to, because outside when you draft anybody in the 5th round in any other position, it's a real crapshoot. That's why you want a bunch of those picks, because who knows if any of these guys are going to make it. But for like these run stuffing defensive tackles, there's no way that John Ridgeway isn't making this team. There's no way that John Ridgeway isn't going to play significant snap. Well, not significant. I would say there's no way that John Ridgeway isn't going to play snaps for this team this year. I mean, unless there's an injury, right? The point is that you were able to spend a 5th round pick on a guy who is going to probably play 10 to 15 snaps guaranteed for you this season if he's healthy. That's very good value.
Yeah, I think he ends up taking basically the Brent Urban spot on this team from what we had last year, right? And maybe if he plays well enough, maybe the Cowboys feel like they don't have to have Carlos Watkins on this team. Maybe they can move on from Watkins and get a little bit younger. But I'm really excited to see, like, on first down, Osa and John Ridgeway together. Like, that would be a lot of fun because Ridgeway is a little bit stouter. Osa is really long, but also can give you a little bit of pass rush because he can get up the field. I think those guys in combination together, while they're not going to give you a lot rushing the quarterback, I think they're going to be really good against the run.
I agree completely.
All right, we've got one more guy to talk about, but before we get there, I want to tell you guys about Bet Online. BetOnline.net is your number one source for all of your betting stats and sports info. Find all the latest sports developments, including league reviews and news this year, including this basketball playoffs, which is upon us, Major League Baseball season, and we've got the Kentucky Derby back on Saturday. BetOnline is your continued source for all of your sports wagering needs, from live betting to playoffs, esports, and more. Head to the website or use your mobile device today to learn more about the trends in action. BetOnline, where the game starts.
Do you like to wear a hat while you watch the Kentucky Derby,
listen,
Marcus?
I am a big Kentucky Derby fan, so I've never been, but I want to go so bad.
Growing up, my parents used to have Kentucky Derby parties every year. And it was late. Everyone would wear hats, and they have like signature cocktails and stuff. So I'm very familiar with that kind of celebration.
I'll probably be wearing a hat, but I'm going to my daughter's tea party on Saturday. So probably.
So you probably will be wearing a hat, actually.
Different kind of hat. All right, last one. Yeah. Devin Harper, linebacker from Oklahoma State. I watched 3 games today of him. TCU, the Baylor game, and then the championship game, the Big 12 championship game against Baylor. I'm going to save my thoughts until after you go. So what are your thoughts on Devin Harper?
I kind of think that you and I see them the same. I wouldn't be surprised. Average height, weight, length for a linebacker. Right? Small. He's kind of smaller hands, but he's got that kind of like it's almost like the numbers you talk about, right? He's 6 feet. He's 230 pounds. He's got just short of 32-inch arms. It's very close to the kind of the standard model, right? Mm-hmm. Except he has just absolutely exceptional movement skills. I mean, when he sees what he's doing, he is an absolute blur. And it just kind of is just teleporting at times. When given a defined assignment, he is really, really difficult to stop. Now, he's much better with a defined assignment because you're going to get diminishing results the more he has to process what's happening in front of him. He can get confused by eye candy in the run game. He needs to trust his keys more. Despite being an incredible mover, he's not great in coverage. He just and that was that's the point that I saw in the DMs that I was like, yeah, I think Marcus saw what I saw.
Because I think the problem is, and I've seen this happen all the time. You see a 6 foot, 230-pound linebacker. Yeah. And I've seen the people already say, oh, he's a knuckle play. You just put him in on passing situations and let him cover. I mean, theoretically, that's great if he could cover.
But he can't cover, so that's the problem. And I think he could get better at it. I think you could get development. I think it's an instincts problem. It's clearly not an athleticism problem. So maybe he just needs more reps there. Who knows? But at this point, I agree. I think there are people are kind of lazily plugging him as a nickel linebacker. Maybe if he's blitzing all the time, because that's the other thing we should talk about is as unimpressed as I am in his coverage, as unimpressed as I am in his ability to read his keys and then fire quickly to process information. if you point and shoot this dude at somebody, like if you just tell him to go blitz the B gap, the dude will do that. I mean, he had 6 sacks and 11 tackles for a loss last year, and on the tape you see it, right? When he's able to just have a track, like, okay, this is what you're doing, attack here. He's valuable because he does have not only great straight line speed, but he also can turn the corner a little bit, so he can get through the gap, make an adjustment, bend back to make the tackle, pursue the quarterback. Those are things that he does really, really well. I think in the run game, he would be a very good run blitzer as well, because you have him shoot the gap. He's able to change direction quickly. And, he runs, what was it, a 4.5. So he can track a lot of these running backs down from behind, or at least pursue, especially quarterbacks, and get them. I think he has value there. A lot of value as a guy that you could figure out a way to kind of maybe just get on the field to send him at the quarterback or send him in a blitz. But I think that can be a difficult guy to get on the field, because it kind of, it sort of telegraphs what you're going to do with him on the field, right? So where does he win? Like I said, defined assignments where he can attack. Anything like that, he's going to thrive. The question is, how do you get him on the field to do that without tipping off what you're doing? The unanswered questions I have: can he ever be more than a backup or a special teamer? Now, I should mention this. I'm sorry. I missed the whole top line with this guy. He is going to be an elite special teamer. He is going to be incredible special teamer because of what I just talked about. Defined assignment. Go get that guy who's catching the punt. Go block that kick. Go block that punt. Those are things that he can do very, very well, because he has elite athleticism, as you can see on the screen, a 9.51 in the relative athletic score for linebackers. It's very, very good. So those are the kind of tasks that he's going to thrive in. The question is, what do you do with this guy on defense that isn't going to be an obvious tip-off when he's on the field?
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned punt block, and that's actually the very first thing that came to mind. Is like, we saw it last year with Bones Fossil. If you can have a guy kind of loop in and kind of beat a block that's kind of sideways, he's going to block a punt or two. Like, I'm just telling you, it's going to happen, because he's so much faster than everybody else. And if you just need him to go in a straight line, he can do it. I think he's actually pretty good when things go like sideline to sideline. But when it's coming downhill at him, it's a problem. There was a run against Baylor in the Big 12 championship game where he is one-on-one in the box at about 2 yards down the line of scrimmage from Abram Smith, the running back. And Smith just bowls him over, gets like 12 yards in the run. Like this, he is a small linebacker, and he kind of plays small too. Like, he's just not super powerful. And even some of the sideline to sideline stuff, like there's times where I think because he's so inexperienced, and I think there's just not a lot of instincts there. He's hesitant, right? And if he just played, if the motor was just at 110% all the time, he's going to luck himself into some plays. But you just don't always see that.
I think the reason that he looks better in the sideline to sideline stuff is because that's allowing it takes a little bit longer to string those plays out. That's allowing his speed and athleticism to make up for his lack of processing speed, right? Because the play's taking a little bit longer. He sees it, and then he can make up the distance that he lost initially with his speed. I think when you're seeing it inside, you talk about the lack of physicality. That is certainly part of it. But the other part of it is that without the ability to kind of process that information quickly, everything happens faster inside. So he needs to be able to get in, see what's happening, read the cues, get into a good body position, and then take on the blocker with good technique. I think by the time he realizes what's happening to him, it's too late. The ball's already coming at him, and he's not able to reactively kind of get to where he needs to redirect offensive linemen or get around him. And that's where you're going to start seeing issues with him. If they start running at him, it takes advantage of his lack of kind of initial processing speed. Yeah,
the biggest thing I wrote from him is just there's a lack of anticipation with everything, right?
Yeah,
like there was a time where they ran like a play action little bootleg out to the tight end, and he's in perfect position. Like if he just has any idea what's coming, he can fly down and make a tackle for a loss. But it took him like a whole extra beat or two to be like, oh, they're throwing it to the flat. I should go up and make the tackle. It's just
like you can hear him saying it to himself in his head.
And
right?
I mean, can Dan Quinn coach him to play with more instincts or just coach him to play faster? We'll see. But at this spot in the draft, I think if you get anything from him on defense as a bonus, right? I would be shocked if he plays a defensive snap for them this year. Like, it's going to be pure special teams.
Yeah, I would imagine.
He's basically taking over, or I mean, I think he hopes to take over the Luke Gifford, Francis Bernard, Tyler Coyle role on defense, right?
Yeah, but if you remember, Luke Gifford and Francis Bernard they really tried not to play them at all on defense early on. You know, that was something that they earned eventually. So I agree. I think that's a very good comparison to what they're looking for, right?
Yes.
So I think you look at the roles that are needing to be filled. This is a guy that, you know, they feel like, hey, again, upside here. It's like Luke Gifford, except for the fact that he has more athleticism than Luke Gifford did. So you're hoping that there's some upside that can be eventually poured into a defensive role. I don't know. I mean, it's going to take a while, I think, especially if he's got instinctual problems. I don't know if that's something that can be taught. It's not like he didn't play a lot of football. I mean, he spent 6 years in college or whatever, 5 years in college. So, but I think that it's one of those things where he has value, he has usefulness. There's definitely a reason to have this guy on your roster because of all the special teams that he could play. The question is, how much can he do for your defense now, which is not much, but how much will he ever be able to do for your defense? And does that matter? Is this guy just like a linebacker version of CJ Goodwin?
Yeah, exactly. I will say that Malcolm Rodriguez, the other linebacker they play with, I think the Lions drafted him. He's a really good player. I think he's going to be fine. I'd also say the Cowboys signed another linebacker, the kid from Texas A&M, Aaron Hansford. Mm-hmm. He's a better player right now than Devin Harper. I've got absolutely no doubt about that. But I understand why the Cowboys did what they did here, because Harper's just a far better athlete, and it's more likely that Hansford was going to fall to being a priority free agent, which he did, because Harper, when you get a 95th percentile athlete like this, these guys just don't last very long, even if they're not good football players right now, because there's only so many guys in the world that are 235 pounds that run a 4.50, right? So we'll see.
Yeah, there's tons of undrafted free agents that could come in and be developmental linebackers. There aren't a ton of those guys who could come in and right away give you excellent special teams snaps. That's what I think Harper will do.
Yeah, I agree. All right, that is it for today's show. Thank you guys for tuning in. Tomorrow, we're going to be answering your Twitter questions, so make sure you guys send those in. We'll be back on Monday to do more prospect previews. We're going to talk about a couple centers that the Cowboys signed that we're maybe a little excited about. Later on in the week, we're going to talk about some receivers who a couple of people had some high grades on some of the wide receivers the Cowboys signed. Maybe we'll talk about Hansford a little bit. Have you got a chance to check out the kicker that the Cowboys have signed yet?
I've watched every single kick he's ever. No, I haven't watched anything yet. So I'll watch the kicker. You guys are gonna make me watch a kicker. I'll watch a kicker.
He had a 62-yard field goal this year that would have been good from 70. Like his leg is incredible. He's a lot of fun.
Can he throw a football?
No. It's gonna be pretty fun. So back tomorrow. Check out the YouTube page Locked On Cowboys. You can check us out on Twitter at Locked On Cowboys. Follow Landon at McCool BCB. I'm at Marcus_Mosher, and we'll see you guys next time.
You are Locked On Cowboys, your daily Dallas Cowboys podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Locked On Cowboys. Locked On Cowboys.